Stranger Things season 2. Was it good? Maybe. Hello, welcome to the HolmFront. I am Tyler, your host, and to my right, as always, is my overly artistic friend, Mitch. Mitch,
Hello.
we're back.
Are.
And with no technical issues, hopefully.
You're right. We just sat down, hit play, and here we are.
We'll see if it continues. So,
Kind of surreal.
stop
Is it
jinxing
recording?
it. Stop jinxing it. It is recording. That's a great question. We should definitely check that more often. Okay, so I did all introductions. We're good. Okay. We just watched something. What did we watch?
We went through Stranger Things Season 2 as a follow-up to our review of Season 1. And I have a confession to make. In that episode, I heavily implied... Well, I mean, I basically just said
There was
that,
no implication. It was I do not like 2
I said I don't like Season 2 and Season 3. And I'd like to take that back. I like Season 2. I liked it a lot, in fact. I thought it was great.
Okay.
I don't know what I was thinking.
I don't either. That's a big shift. I thought about this for a while before because you have mentioned or alluded to a concept that you thought Stranger Things would embody as it continued.
Yes.
Now, at some point, I'd like to delve into that, but I think I want to wait until we go further into this series. We intend to do each season, so
yeah.
I'm thinking maybe at the end it'll be like a HolmFront doesn't need to fix. I don't know. It's a horrible title. Well, that is
Yeah,
a
that
working
sounds good.
title. We will
I
fix
like
that.
it. I like the title.
What HolmFront thought was a fix and is no longer.
And it is no longer.
That's
yeah.
a little long, but whatever. I'll have that in the thumbnail. Okay, so we watched season 2. Initial thoughts. Let's start with a rating. What do you think? Because obviously season 1 is just 5 out of 5. So what is season 2 now? Now that you've revised your opinion.
I think it's a 5 out of 5.
Oh boy! Wow. What was it before?
Probably like a 3. It just felt like an average, like just Stranger Things that you like thrown into a pot. That's what it felt like when I first went through it. I was just like, this is like rehashing the first season. And, except all the characters are kind of like a little bit meaner, a little bit harsher. Like you have that new Max character who's really mean. You have Dustin who gets snappier with people. Like that's just how it came across, but that's not really fair to it because and Billy's super mean. But there's
a theme here. It's everyone's angry about everything.
But I think they're just different because they're there to like replace some of the original cast as like newbies to the strangeness of what's going on in the world of Stranger Things.
Oh, that was clever. That was good.
Yeah, thanks.
Glad you're on the show.
Well, that's good because I'm about to say that I don't remember where I was going with it and your original question. Oh, yes, the star. Okay, I remember now.
Well, my question was, what was it rated before? So you had a 3,
I had a
popped
3,
up to 5.
Felt like it was average. The first one was like, wow, that was mind-blowing. It was so cool. The characters got to discover everything. And now that discovery portion is kind of gone because you're really just... I mean, they know about the Upside Down. They know about the creatures that come through it, etc. They don't know the nuances of this specific circumstance, but like you're still dealing with the same premise that you were dealing with last time. So, that novelty is gone. But that's kind of not really fair to season 2.
So you think that was the only thing that separated the two is the novelty? Is that maybe what disenfranchised you? You're like, well, I've already seen Stranger Things, so it's no longer a mystery. It's not as good.
And yes, I mean, pretty much.
That's okay.
But I mean, there is the other thing that I feel like you were hinting at, which is, of course, the crap episode in Chicago. That episode's still not very good, but it was better this time. So maybe if I just watch it like 4 more times, it'll be really good.
It'll just ripen to perfection if you just continue.
Yeah.
Just pound it in your head, and you're like, all right, I like it now. It's good. I don't think that's how it works. Okay, so what is it that changed your opinion? Let's start there, and maybe that can lay the groundwork to build upwards.
Okay, so the main thing that I felt like I got better was I was catching the references in the same sense that I was catching them last time, but the difference now is that the first time I went through it, the references just felt like they were there to supplement the story, whereas in this one, it felt like it had teetered more with the, well, I'm just doing this just to reference something, and then I
Ah,
didn't always like the execution. But now I've come to terms with that, and I feel like that was more me just projecting my personal taste into the mix. So, for example, I commented how I didn't like the look of the Demogorgon very much in the first season.
yeah.
I just didn't feel like it was particularly scary looking. Well, in this season, they have the Demogorgon dogs, the
Demodogs.
Demodogs,
Yep.
that Dustin is particularly concerned
He's
with us
insistent.
saying.
Let's call them Demodogs. We will not call them anything else.
Yeah, so it has the Demodog. So I already didn't like the design of the Demogorgon. So then they bring in the Demodogs, and it just felt like the same thing. And
Hmm.
I was like, okay, so now you're using an idea that kind of I was okay putting to rest, and now it's like here it is back again. But then I got it. I was like, oh, it's an alien reference. So now I understand their thought process behind it, because it starts off where Dustin finds, like, not the series, but how they discover the dogs, is he finds like this little tadpole creature, and he's
Pollywog.
this polywog thing, yeah, in his trash can, and so he starts feeding it, and then it just grows exponentially so, and it's like shedding its skin and stuff, and then it becomes the monster that we know it as, the Demodogs, and then you realize that in Alien, it was the same similar kind of situation where it like sheds its skin and then, gets larger and more dangerous. But then what was the sequel to Alien? Aliens. And what was the big thing with that? It was no longer one alien, it was
It was
multiples.
multiple.
So that was the idea of what they were going with there. So I felt like, oh, okay, this makes logical sense to me. I still don't like the design for the Demodogs very much. It's just kind of the weird, like, ant mouth thing. I don't know. It's just not scary to me. It just isn't like, oh no. Um, so
They could have just made them xenomorphs. They're like, you know what? We're referencing it anyway.
well, they do have a xenomorph in this as well. At least the shape of it in terms of the mind flare, because it has that
Oh,
arched, like,
yes.
backwards weird looking head thing.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that, yeah. I never really thought of it that way, but now I won't be able to not see it.
I didn't. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate
Sorry.
that.
Well, yeah. See, I didn't think of it either until I made the alien connection, and then was like, "Oh, so there's more connection
Hmm.
there. That makes sense now.
So it
Why
kind
the
of just
mind flare would."
solidified what you already suspected.
Yeah,
Okay.
basically, and it felt like they had more control than I was giving them credit for. I wanted to see something in particular from season 2, and that wasn't fair. Like, they knew what they were doing. I just needed to kind of take a step back and understand, like, where some of those things come in. Because when you're doing a show like this, a lot of your decision making is, well, let me pull on an inspiration, but in a really clear, meaningful way to, like, enforce it, just kind of like push it to the forefront there.
Yeah, you want the substance of it rather than, like, you want the meaning, I guess, behind it rather than the direct, like, you don't want to plagiarize something. So
Yeah.
see our mini episode on that, by the way.
Yeah, like, I'm not saying the Demodogs should have looked like xenomorphs. I'm just saying that, because I recognize they're like, oh, take a scenario that's a sequel in which the monster is now multiplied. What can we do with that? That was the line of thinking. And for what they did with it, I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, because that with the Demogorgon in the beginning, because when you have that type of, I don't know, concept that and Things has multiple of them. It has the Upside Down, it has L, and it has a Demogorgon. Like, there's a lot of things that it's throwing at you. So and you gotta keep your audience engaged. So you only want so much. So having one Demogorgon that they could link with Dungeons and Dragons to kind of carry it along, which that was whenever we were writing down references for all these, and that was the main one that we totally forgot to put in. Dungeons and Dragons, duh.
Oh,
It's like the main one. Uh,
well,
so they have that where Dungeons and Dragons is kind of their link, and they just read from the rule book essentially to kind of explain what's going on in their world. But then they have the one Demogorgon. So then they have this, and it's like, well, we don't need to just put multiple of them, which you can, like Aliens did it. It was just multiple xenomorphs. But they're like, why don't we just give it a bit of a variation and just give more, and then that will be like a similar threat. So then we can pull, they can have an army, and then you can pull more because more people are aware now. You're gonna have more of like an army, as it were, of people that are aware that know how to fight back or that will try to fight back. Hopper, Joyce, and then this team of scientists, etc. So that way, it's not quite equal, but like the stakes are higher, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the stakes yeah, because I mean, moving that goalpost is something you wanna do with your sequels, is that the stakes become higher, but that's really a tricky balance because the more you make the stakes higher, the less small town Hawkins it feels, and so I think
And that
that's
was your
where
one of your original problems, right?
especially with the Chicago episode because it's like, "Gone is Hawkins in the small town feel.
Let's go
We've just
way out.
yeah, let's just go off on the deep end." And they have reasons for doing that too, like they're inspired by the Warriors or whatever, which I haven't seen, and X-Men and things like that.
Mm,
But it was kind of like, here's a bunch of references that weren't already playing nice with what we were doing. They
right.
existed in the time, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they belong. And I think
Mm.
that's where they kind of lost track of, because, you pull your inspiration and then you produce something new. And the only real difference about Stranger Things, it's a meaningful difference, by the way, but it's the fact that they let the inspiration be. It's not meant to be hidden. It's meant to be recognized as a source of inspiration.
But it's also tempered by the universe they create, which is nice.
Yes.
Which is why that Chicago episode feels so out of place because it's like, well, let's make a room where all this stuff can go, and it's like just feels like an add-on room. It's just one of those crappy ones that has
Mm.
like the lesser walls, it's not drywall, it's like the snap togethers. It's just like it's not as well insulated. So you just know, like, oh, this is an add-on. This doesn't feel quite right. Air conditioning doesn't work as well in here. That's what it
Yeah.
feels like when you get to that episode because it's just like this just feels like something they just kind of they crammed in and for the heck of it.
It's like a Sega CD.
Man, that's a niche reference.
Do you remember that? It
I
was this.
I do. Do you?
Yeah, it's this attachment you would attach to your Sega Genesis that would let you play CD-based games on your Sega Genesis.
Great idea. Not super practical.
No, especially because so for one, you already have to have a game console, which are expensive,
Yep.
and then for two, what ends up happening is you get CD quality audio, but for a lot of those games, it's
Not
still
CD quality audio.
16,
Yeah.
yeah, not CD quality visuals whatsoever. So then you have this weird mix. Like Lunar the Silver Star is the one that I think of the most because I went through that for my award show and people said it was good. It's not. Um,
Incorrect.
but but like it was just so weird. It was like surreal, and I did kind of appreciate it just for existing because it's like you fire up, let's say, Fantasy Star, another Sega Genesis RPG, and that's just all okay, 16-bit graphics, 16-bit audio chit, just 16-bit all the way, so it feels like there's uniformity. But then you do the CD one, and it's like this super crisp audio, but then the visuals are like not
Have,
keeping up.
haven't
It's
caught up
odd.
yet. But I mean the concept is interesting. It's just it's too much at that point. You just want to pop in a cartridge and go, right? I mean, you want or pop
Yeah.
in a CD and go.
You just want your next Hawkins episode, and instead they're
Right.
like, "Let's go over to
Which
Chicago and chill and do other
right.
references that you
You're
know." And
like,
you're like,
wait, wait,
"Yeah,
wait.
I knew them."
I want to go back. I want to go back to where we were because this doesn't feel familiar at all.
Mm,
Yeah, it's like leaving Hogwarts when you're in Harry Potter. You're like, who cares about London?
exactly.
This sucks. Go
Right.
go back. Go back to the wizarding world.
Right. And that was fine when they did it briefly,
Right.
but then they
But
did like
very
a whole
briefly.
movie that was set in like the US in the 20s, and then it was like
Well, maybe
all
maybe
wrong.
maybe we'll
All
get into
wrong.
those later. Like that's
Yeah.
another interesting topic. But that's what it felt like. It felt very out of place. I don't even think you could get away with it if you devoted a whole season. Like if you took
No.
Eight's character or something and just did like a spin-off and it would still feel weird. Like Stranger
Yeah.
Things, I mean, I would argue the same about Harry Potter, which is one of the tensions we have with those films is like if you broaden it to now the wizarding world and it's supposed to be able to contain other properties, well, those properties might seem interesting from a distance. The further away you get from the original property, I don't know, it just gets muddy. Like you've created this bubble in your head and you have to exit the bubble in order to like look out. I don't know, it's just
Yeah.
it's an
Yeah.
odd concept. So this episode, thankfully it's just one episode. I was glad that they didn't do a 3-episode arc. And it was just like, man, this is like a third of the season that you've just thrown down the drain. But
Yeah.
for what it is, it accomplishes decent things.
It does.
So it has enough in there to like not quite redeem it, I guess, but to give you something while it's there.
You might as well just share all your thoughts on the episode now because it's like we
True.
can't talk about the season without being forced to address this singular
Because it is a
annoying
whole
episode.
episode. It is
The
an
whole
entire, like,
thing.
start to finish. It's like, well, we're gonna take a break from Hawkins, and I was like, well, I didn't really want to, but okay.
Right. It makes you feel like you're taking a break from Stranger Things altogether. And I
Right.
think that episode 2 just left such a bad taste over
Mm.
the whole season. You were like, my worldview of Stranger Things is shattered, and not in a good way. But I think upon rewatch, it does recover itself. So, what are the things that you just can't stand? Let's just get all the bad. Let's just air it out. Get it out in the open. What's so awful about this episode?
Well,
Are
as
you? And actually, let me add an amendment here.
uh
Are you going to be objective, or are you just going to tell me your feelings? I'm happy with either. I just want to know.
I mean, I can try and do both, I suppose.
Okay.
Yeah, I like I said before, it's just it just breaks the immersion too much. It's
Okay.
like, let's go out to something completely, like, aesthetically different, visually, or I guess those are the same things. Um, and it just has a different atmosphere to it, like, because it pulls on all these, like, punk rock themes and, like you said, the Warriors themes, maybe even some X-Men, but it pulls out too far, I think. And it shifts you because, like, Hawkins is so immersive, right? It's kind of that problem we had with Skeleton Crew. It's like,
Oh.
you're in the universe of Star Wars, but we're gonna make it look like suburbia so that he can escape suburbia into Star Wars. And it's like, ugh. It's just one of those
Why would
that,
I
like,
want that?
yeah, it's like water and oil. It's just kind of like it's gonna have that separation. So that's kind of what this felt like. It's like, oh, I like the immersion of Hawkins. Hawkins lends to itself this, like, aura of mystery. You're out in the middle of the woods, but also, like, you have some elements of things that you look fondly back at or not. I mean, depends on how you see middle school and high school, but, like, those have a lot of romanticism around them, right? It's easy to look back and be like, man, I miss X, Y, or Z, or the freedom of being a kid, or like, but it had all those things with it. You jump on your bike and you ride over to your friend's house and you do whatever. So going to Chicago with this, like, dumpy, I don't know, like, it's almost post-apocalyptic in the way that they show this place,
Like a bad Mystery Science Theater movie.
kind of. So
Mm.
yeah, it's too far removed in so many different ways and it's just so out of place in all of it.
Let's remove that for just one moment.
Sure.
Do you feel like if you were to just see that episode in and of itself, you'd like it okay?
No, it's too disjointed. It doesn't seem to have, like, a similar or a singular focus. Because it, like I said, it handles a bunch of things, but only because L's there. Otherwise, like, it's
Yeah, like if they pulled L out and did like what you were suggesting before, make it a spinoff or something, I don't think it would work either. I mean, I guess it would work in the sense that you would have more time to develop the characters. But as it is now, it has to introduce all of these characters and then you get so little time with them. And then it
yeah.
wants like these massive plot things where like, well, they find a guy, they're gonna kill him, then he doesn't
Well,
die,
you
and you're
you
just
made
like,
a comment.
whoa.
You made a comment while we were watching it that it's too much like a comic book. And the more I thought about that, I was like, yeah, because it's not.
By
It's
that I meant like a singular,
yeah,
just I read it and then now I gotta wait a couple of weeks or whatever till the next.
sure. But I was thinking about it even in a broader sense of, like, it has this, I don't know, group of outcasts or misfits or something, and they all kind of fulfill a caricature of 80s pop culture. I was like, that's fine, but none of them have any kind of grounding to them. They're all just kind of bizarre and quirky and weird.
Hmm.
And so none of them you can connect with. You just have to kind of follow L through navigating each of these characters, and you only have an episode to introduce. There's like 4 of them or 5 of them. So
Yeah, there's a lot.
it's just an overwhelming bit there, but also it doesn't allow any of them to flesh out in any kind of meaningful way. So you're kind of just left wanting. If you do like that aesthetic, if you do like any of the elements that they introduce there, they don't spend enough time to, like, give you anything about them except for, I don't know, what you might connect with in just like, oh yeah, I used to have a mohawk like that, or I used to do my hair like I shaved one side of my head and the rest of it was this crazy whatever the rat's nest of a thing. But otherwise, like, but you'd have to grow up in that culture or have some kind of similar experience, and that's only going to be for those people that grew up in the '80s that had that kind of, I don't know, that, like, punk rock esque aesthetic. So
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know. It was trying to bite off too much, but also it didn't give you enough.
that's a great way to put it. I did feel like there were definitely some shots that I was thinking of. I remember thinking to myself, "Oh, that actually looks kind of good if I just ignore all the substance of how we got here."
You mentioned that you're like, I like the cinematography. I was like, yeah, but what about the rest of it?
Well, I said that because again, I sort of understood the thinking there was here's our excuse to try something a little new and a little daring.
Sure.
And to be fair, season 2 does need it's the one season that just blends with all the rest. It doesn't like immediately stand out because like season 3, you got like Starcourt, and you're like, oh yes, that's the one with Starcourt. I remember the Starcourt stuff.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
And the
And
body horror stuff.
right,
Hard to forget that.
exactly. And then the first one, it's like, oh, I remember that because
Sure.
that was the first one. And the second one is like, what do you remember about the second one? It's like, oh, it had that really annoying Chicago episode. But you probably wouldn't think of that first. You probably just pause for a moment, and then they'd be like, it had the one with the Chicago episode, and then you'd be like, oh yeah, I didn't like that one as much. And you see, it's like all the burden was on that one episode to be good, but that's the one episode that's not good. The rest of it was great.
Yeah, I guess that's yeah. I guess the thing that I would think of is like the memorable scene for me is the spider when it goes into Will. So like
Oh,
the spy arc is probably
that part is cool.
what
Yeah.
I'm gonna drag out of that as like the unique portion of season 2,
Mm.
because that's when they try and connect the antagonists, or if you can consider it that, with so it's the upside down and the real world connecting. So you have something tangible to connect that to, and that was like the Exorcist reference. So
Yeah.
I think that would probably be where I would say it's unique, but otherwise, yes, it does tend to blend, especially with season 1 a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels like a direct continuation, whereas season 3, I think it tries harder to look a little bit different aesthetically. Like it's a lot more neons and bright
Mm-hmm.
colors, and it's very like
We're hard into the 80s
right.
now, so let's just
Let's
embrace
just
that.
like go
Yeah.
full on. Whereas this one's a lot more like the previous season's aesthetic. So you have the arcade, but they don't do a whole lot with the arcade.
Yeah.
Like Starcourt is like a central port of the story for season 3. The arcade is just like this is where they hang out in the daytime, but that's
Mm.
about it. Doesn't really have much to do with the narrative.
I think I also maybe expected the season to be a little darker because it came around on Halloween time and it was set on Halloween. And so there was this like, okay, season 2 is gonna kind of it's gonna hit you harder than the first one did because it's gonna really put some boundaries. And I
Speaking
think
of which,
Mhm.
as of this day recording, my co-host has still not seen season 4. So
Sorry.
you'll get your dark. But continue.
It's not that I wanted the dark necessarily. It was just that
You thought it was going to
I
happen.
thought it was gonna play into the Halloween theme a little more, and it doesn't feel like it's that much darker than season 1. I mean, I know the Exorcist stuff with Will, like, that stuff definitely goes pretty far where
Sure.
he's especially when he's, like, they're trying to, they're doing the sauna thing to just push it out to get the thing to leave, and then he's, like, goes up on his neck, all his veins get all black, and he's like, like, "Whoa!"
I like when his voice starts going all Exorcist. He's got like the two going, his voice and the thing's voice. Like, all right, I got it.
Yeah, so that part I'll give you that. That was pretty dark, and like even you know there's that one where it's like going into him and he's like and he's
Oh
just
yeah,
like and
he's standing in the field. Like,
yes.
oh my gosh.
Oh jeez. Yeah.
Yeah, well, even when it goes out of him, the same thing. Just like, good night. This is rough watching a kid go through this, but
Well,
okay.
there's also one where he has like this something happens where he goes into like a seizure
Well,
and
yeah,
he's like
they're burning the
yes.
genitals or whatever.
Right, and then he
Yeah.
falls over and he's just like,
They're like, where's it
his
hurt? He's
eyes
like,
are like rolling back.
everywhere. Like, good night.
Like, oh,
It's like season on the grass.
yeah.
Yeah, tough watch. It is tough watch, but
Yeah,
it's
so
good.
I acknowledge, yes, it has that, but we haven't talked about season 3 yet, which we're not doing this episode.
Not
But
this episode.
just one thing to note about that is season 3 is very dark. I was like,
Good.
whoa,
Yeah.
sheesh. Okay, that is what I was expecting when they were talking about it
They
when they were
watched
hyping up season 2.
they watched all of John Carpenter's films and they're like, we can do that. I think we can do all of that. Let's just go for it. Let's crank it up to 12 and let's move. And man, it's rough. It's like,
Yeah.
good God. Yeah, so this one, as we've said, it's got the Exorcist themes in there, the Aliens themes, and I think those are the two primary inspirations. Does it pretty well.
Hmm.
But and then it's got, well, yeah, I guess the Exorcist theme is just that thing of the spy arc. I think is what for me made it unique, and I liked that about the
Okay.
season.
Yeah, I mean, I like that too. I just forget that
Well, it
nuance.
gets buried with all the other stuff.
Yeah.
It's hard to remember that part because like you don't really know because like he's teetering and he teeters before that happens because he's already half in the upside down and half. I'm talking about Will Byers.
Yeah.
He's half in the upside down and half in the real world, and he keeps having this like flashbacks, but they're not quite flashbacks. He's actually seeing something real. So it's not until the thing inhabits him, whatever you want to call that. Um, what's the word I'm thinking of?
Okay.
Possesses him.
Yeah.
That you start to get the like spy portion of it, but even that is drowned out by a lot of other things going on in the season. I will say, watching back through, especially the first episode runs a little bit long, but it is also really tight. I really
Hmm.
liked the writing for episode 1 specifically. It just felt like it didn't have any fat on it. It just flowed seamlessly into all these new characters and how they all interact. And I'll say I liked Max particularly because I had a friend like that when I was in middle school. When I was 8 years old, it was a pastor's daughter at a church I was going to. She was just thread for thread, skateboarded, hardcore tomboy, and she was my first kiss, by the way. Um, she was crush, and and her sister was my babysitter, and she was a 13-year-old. And she was like the girly girl, and then her little sister was the tomboy, and the tomboy was the one that I was like,
Firecracker.
exactly. So when I saw Max, I was like, whoa, that's Megan. Like that is man. It was fun to watch just because I was like, man, brought me right back to my childhood.
Oh,
So
that's really cool.
yeah,
I
but
mean, that's kind of that's the joys of doing this nostalgia stuff is when you can find something that is original that people can just take or leave, but then for those that have experienced it, it means something so much more.
mhm,
It's kind of like in that the Dungeons and Dragons movie, that whole sequence where they send the druid out to go and investigate and get some information, and then they detect them, and then so she's transforming into different animals and trying to escape, and it's super long sequence. When I saw that, it reminded me of very specific events that had happened in a D&D campaign I had played in,
oh, it's
where we
cool.
sent our druid out and they were just on their own trying to get information and then trying to get out and survive, and then we had to back them up. So when that happened in that movie, it was this surreal, like, wow, that's crazy that you pinpointed something that, like, almost like as if it had captured my exact experience, but obviously it couldn't have known of
Sure,
that information. But I think that's in pulling on just D&D, one of the ways that it's a real strength, because season 2 sets itself up to say, like, okay, remember last time we played, we defeated the Demogorgon, but he's not gone yet.
and he's not the only one.
Right. And so now you start introducing the threads for the sequel campaign and how you
Mm,
build on your ideas. And that very much plays into everybody's got to, level up their characters and get through this. So I think that element was really cool. And I think that's why, like, if you were to extract the Chicago episode and just pitch it out the window, which coincidentally enough, seasons 3 and 1 both have 8 episodes and 2 has 9.
hmm.
There's an odd one out, is there not?
Oh,
So
weird.
you
Look at that.
click that guy out, and then suddenly season 2 becomes even more homogenized with season 1. But I kind of feel like that's the best way to go, and or that is one way to go, and then you just make every season kind of riffing your ideas, but each one doesn't really push itself to go outside of the realm too much. Because when season 3, they're just like, all hell breaks loose, it's a new thing,
Sure.
for better or for worse. And if you want to keep using this original characters, then you have to do that because they're going to age. They're not going to stay the same way all the time.
Clearly. See our review for season 5's trailer. It was like, man, all these guys look so much
So
older.
old,
And it's
ancient.
interesting because I mean it's 10 years old by this point.
Hmm.
So it's fascinating to see the difference from, seeing these kids in middle school to now like being actual adults. Um
Yeah.
so one more comment on that Chicago episode, just
Okay.
as kind of like a best faith scenario, because it exists. It's there. Regardless if you want it to be or not. Um the one thing that I'll say that I think that they were trying to accomplish, and it does it to a decent extent, is that Elle is such an odd man out as this mage character. Fish out of water, bred in a lab, having to like now encounter the real world with these special powers. Giving her a bone, throwing her a bone to give her another character that has had the same upbringing and has powers for her to latch onto to not make her feel so isolated, um, does do something for the character outside of just like, let's go get a power up from this random person. Like having her connect with someone else and kind of seeing what she could. It's kind of like Luke and Vader, where he can see what can become. Like, because she's this
Mm-hmm.
this 8 character so filled with hatred and vengeance. Elle actually looks at her at one point and goes through this experience where she realizes like, oh, this is a bad path if I go this way any further. So I think I'm going to go back. I'm going to be this mage for my friends. My friends love me for who and what I am. It doesn't matter if, they can do the things I can do or they have the same upbringing that I've got. So it's all right. She got to take a glimpse and then come back. And they for what it's worth, they handle it in a short amount of time. So it's like, all right, I'm just going to
Yeah.
extract all the good I can out of it and just ignore the out of placeness that episode tends to lend the season.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a good way to see that one. Because I do like the takeaway message she has. I like that final conversation where, you know, she's like, "Oh, your friends, they can't help you. I can help you." And then Owl says, "No, you're right. They can't help me, but I can help them." And it's this interesting, like, sort of role solidification. Like, she recognizes, I'm the mage. I'm the one who can actually kill those demodogs. I can seal the gate. I can do the thing that they need me to do because they can't. And, you know, they're my friends and I care about them. So just because, like, I have these emotional complexities going on with me, it doesn't mean that there isn't a greater good that I should be aspiring to try to, take care of and be responsible for. And so she goes back and does like the mature. It's kind of a process of her maturing, recognizing the bigger picture. So I did really like that sentiment to it.
It also introduces a concept. I mean, we might as well get into it now since um, we're on that episode. So
I know
8,
I rabbit trailed us, but now we're back. It's like you can't get away from it.
that's what the episode does. So in that episode, 8 introduces this concept that Papa, Dr. Brenner, had essentially, well, I'm not exactly sure how it was introduced, I guess. But she introduces the concept that Elle has a wound and it's festering and that she needs to face it. And her method of doing that is to erase the past. And by doing so, you got to kill everybody involved. So they go after the security guards.
Brutally. You
Yeah,
can't just kill them and make them
you
suffer,
make
make
him
them
suffer. Don't
squeal.
let him die right away. Make him suffer. Make him think about it. Make him know what's happening.
Savor
He
all the
didn't
little
give us any
moments.
mercy, so be merciless. So she actually, so her power is that she can get in people's minds and make them see and hear things that aren't there. So she introduces Papa to come in and spread this message of that you have a wound and it's going to fester until you heal it up.
The
What?
L.
Yeah, just as Estelle. So then at the end, they visually represent that with the gate that's opened in the lab that
Mm-hmm.
Elle seals up using her powers.
Right.
It was an interesting concept because they have a lot of themes of like PTSD and trauma, and that's shown through Elle and through Will. Will more so, but basically how they both encounter that, and they visually show that with Elle sealing the gate up at the end, and then it's like a because she's also thinking about Papa and thinking about 8 and thinking about all the things that she's dealing with Hopper because he becomes this father figure. and how she's facing the bad but taking in the good because she has these differences with Hopper and they make up because they are at odds. They have their own pasts to deal with, and they're having to square that with now this relationship they're trying to build together. And that happens at the end while he's protecting her while she's trying to face this thing. And I won't say any more because I have seen season 4 and there's more to it now,
Hmm.
which you will have to see. So
Okay.
once you see
Yeah.
season 4,
Yeah, I
but
mean, the theme of, you know, the trauma being this ever-present force in the story, I think is really at the heart of what makes Stranger Things strong. Which is kind of weird because you would think that it's the aesthetic choices of blending things together, but it's not really like that. It's about that emotional depth that I think a lot of that millennial generation was dealing with. And I like the visual representation of it in the story world, and I like that it's this thing that just kind of keeps coming back. I like Will's arc in this one a lot, actually, because in the first season, I mean, he's not even really around. He just goes through this horribly traumatizing incident. He's gone for a week. I mean, like, as a kid, you're gone for a week in this unknown place. I mean, how does he even survive? He can't eat anything or drink water. So I'm assuming he just never needed it in the upside down world for whatever reason. And he evades capture, but then eventually he gets caught at the end, and then they rescue him before anything too severe happens. But he's got like that weird, creepy thing in his mouth. That's another alien thing, and they rip it out. This is nasty stuff. So this he's gone through a lot, and he's a sensitive kid. He was sensitive even before all this happened. So then in season 2, what they decide to do is like beat that down even harder.
remember how terrible it was, Will? You remember?
Round 2.
Let's make it worse. You're going to get possessed. Someone's going to take over your mind. You're going to try and choke your mom to death.
You're going to try to kill your friends.
You're going to experience pain on a physical level that you've never experienced. You probably won't experience again. You're going to go through every hell imaginable. Do you like seizures? Well, I hope you don't, because you're going to have a couple. Like, we're just going to make your life pain. It's like, my gosh, poor child.
I know, poor kid.
He's going to have the worst childhood you could possibly imagine.
I'm like, what did he do to deserve this? I mean, it even damages his social life because he comes back and they're calling him Zombie Boy, which is like terrible. Like,
Well, yeah, they thought he was dead. They like actually had a physical burial for him and stuff. So now
yeah,
he has to square that reality somehow and deal with the fact that like we can't tell the truth as to why he's back. And yeah, I imagine that all of that's just a lot of weight on a kid's shoulders.
yeah, he's like
And then
12.
the like I know this is a weird thing to say. The worst part about it, because I'm thinking about it from what I would have felt in that age, is that every day my mom's got to drop me off. The principal has to come get me and walk me out to my mom every
Right,
day.
and make a big scene.
Right. My mom's like super overprotective, and I've got to deal with that. Like, I've already got enough to deal with being zombie boy, but also my
Right.
mom's here to pick me up after every day. And like, everyone's mom, like, you're in middle school, everyone's mom's there to pick him up. But he doesn't get to go on the bus. He doesn't get to go trick or treating. He doesn't
Right.
get to have any kind of independence for good reason. But other kids aren't going to take in that nuance. They're just going to make fun of him
Right.
because, like, that's unusual. That's weird.
Yeah.
And, like, your mom shouldn't be like that. My mom's not like that. In fact, my mom doesn't love me at all. That's my child. Just kidding.
Yeah, and on top of it, he's dealing with the repercussions of being in the upside down world. You see it at the end of season 1 where he vomits up this like slug thing.
The polywog.
The polywog thing is oh, that's what it is?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Oh, so yeah, if you didn't make
I
that
didn't make
connection,
that.
the reason why it was at Dustin's house is because it's in the same neighborhood where
Right.
Will coughs it up.
That makes sense now.
And so they just gave it to Dustin because Dustin has a need to understand everything. He can't not know what it is. And he wants the credit for discovering a new species. So they thought that interaction would be the most entertaining, which it is.
Yeah.
And it was the most, I don't know, believable, I suppose. So that's why they gave it to Dustin
I see. That makes
narratively.
sense.
But yes, that's the one.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, I mean, it's like, okay, so I guess like what I was going with that was, is he still feeling sick from it and having these experiences? He's like, I know he's having the PTSD thing where he gets these flashbacks to it. And then he's questioning, is it real? Is it not? And then there's people telling me that it isn't, but some people are very concerned. Felt real to me,
Right.
and then what do you say? How much do you say? How do you even describe a condition that only you have felt and there's no one else? Like, I mean, even Elle had someone she could find who had that similar experience, but Will is just on his own.
Completely isolated. Yeah.
So yeah, it's really tough on him, and so I just always really feel bad for that character whenever I go through this. Like this poor child, what did he do to deserve this?
Be in the show. I think, yeah, because that one's an interesting point. Is like pulling out a little bit. This is where you can use the inspiration as kind of your bait and switch or sleight of hand, probably a better term for it.
Mm,
Because everyone's assuming that this is strictly PTSD. And even back then, PTSD was something that they were experimentally trying to figure out. And that's explained in the show as well. So they're interpreting it like PTSD, but this is something completely new. Like it has this element of the supernatural mixed in with it. So they're like, well, we don't know how to deal with this, but we know what PTSD is to some extent. So we'll just treat it like that. But Will going through this is like, well, how much of it is just PTSD and how much of it is real? And his mom is doing the same thing because she's being overprotective. But also, Joyce Byers is a very fascinating character in this whole show because, like in season 1 and season 2, she's this minimally listened to character, but she's always right. Because she's like, this is my kid. I'm going to know exactly what to do for my kid.
yeah,
But everyone else is like, well, it's just PTSD. It's just, obviously you went through this traumatic event, so you're obviously going
you're
to be hyper
crazy.
aware. But she's like, no, I know what I'm talking about. This is different. And then it ends up being different. So it's an interesting contrast of like, well, how do you deal with that situation?
Yeah,
Because like you have similar instances, but not the same. And the thing about this one, if I remember correctly, it's been a while since I've seen season 3. I'm obviously going to do that next for the next episode. But I think when she closes the gate, it helps Will. It's now severed his connection to the Upside Down enough to where he's like, okay, I can feel like I can actually make a real recovery now
yeah,
because
yeah,
it's broken officially. It wasn't before because even though I'm out of the Upside Down is still with me, if that makes sense. Like
yeah.
you can take the kid out of the Upside Down, but you can't take the Upside Down out of the kid. So when she severs the connection, he feels like he's making real progress for season 3, whereas season 2 it's not like that. So it leaves this open door to where the spider thing can enter him. So
You just call it the mind flare.
mind flare. That's why I keep forgetting what they called it. There it is, mind flare. Sorry, I can't remember every detail. It's a lot of episodes.
It's Demodogs and it's mind flare. Those are the names.
Yeah, and
That
then
actually.
there's a new one in 4.
Oh, okay.
So each thing that they name is named after Dungeons and Dragons, which I'm not super familiar with. I didn't play it.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know the lore very deeply. I was
Yeah, but they
actually
tell you in the show.
they do, and that's my fault for not remembering. I was picking a coworker's brain because he plays Dungeons and Dragons, and there's a character in season 4 called Vecna, and I was like, explain to me Vecna. This is my research. I was like, tell me who Vecna is in the actual Dungeons and Dragons. Like, oh, he's this and this. We'll get into that.
Oh, yeah. I was picking on you in part because this is like an interesting thing that the show does that I didn't quite catch, or at least I didn't interpret in the same way. Because there's a tendency when you're watching like the sequel where they're like, okay, let's just get together and do the same thing we did last time, guys. That's slightly different. And that's where the reputation of the obnoxious sequel is. Like Transformers 2, it's like the first one was fun, just like escapist movie. Second one was ridiculous and stupid. Pretty much the same movie, but now it just comes across all wrong.
Sure.
So one of the things that this,
Novelty is a hell of a thing. It'll really
yeah,
carry a lot of your weight. But
mm-hmm.
once you don't have that anymore, you got to actually do some serious work. And Michael Bay was like, eh. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
Tangent, go ahead.
Well, in this, they Dustin is he's really attached to the term he comes up for these creatures, calling them demodogs. He's like Demogorgon and dogs. You just put it
He's
together,
like correcting people.
right?
They're like,
Even
what
though
are
he's
these
the
things?
only
Demo
one
dogs. They're
who
demo
came.
dogs. What? Demo. It doesn't matter. It's all right.
Yeah. So he's like so committed to this definition, and it's reminiscent of the scene in season 1 where they're trying to discuss where Will went missing, and they get in this argument over Mirkwood, and then it's like it takes place here or there. It's in the Hobbit, no, Lord of the
Like,
Rings, and then it,
the Hobbit. It
they get
doesn't matter. He asked.
yeah, they're, like debating, and Hopper is just there to say, like, look, where is that? Like in real life, not the term. So, it's playing on a similar type of thing, but done in a new way, and
Mm.
it transforms it a little bit, and that's the kind of thing that I think is. You take it either way. It can bother you if you're just like, it's not original anymore. But it is still indicative of the characters, and so it's usually humorous if you're attached to the characters, and that's always the main thing I think with longer form stories is just like making sure that cast is some characters you appreciate.
It also So it keeps the dichotomy there, though, because one of the things we appreciated so much about season 1 is that neither the kids nor the adults are put down for being what they are, which is nice. It's like
Mm-hmm.
the adults bring the gravitas and maturity, but it takes them a while because they're not as open-minded to accept certain things like the kids are, and that's why the kids are finding out they're discovering all the mysteries, and the adults are responding to it. And that keeps through each season. This one, I think, particularly does it again. And it's funny because it like becomes self-aware for a second. So in
Mm-hmm.
the first one, Demogorgon is a term that they pull out of Dungeons and Dragons. So then they just go to Dungeons and Dragons for all of their answers. They're like, oh, it's like the Shadow Realm or whatever. And then they come up with the term upside down because of the way that the scientist teacher explains their theory to them. He like takes it and puts it through a scientific method, and then he's like, here it is. And then they're like, oh, okay, so this is in the Shadow Realm. It's an upside down. So then they actually use the Dungeons and Dragons playing board and they flip it upside down, and that's how they come up with the term. In this one, they're trying to figure out how to best describe what Will's going through and what they think has happened to him, and they discover the mind flayer. And so they're like, so they use that term, and then Hopper's like, what the hell is that? So they go to Dungeons and Dragons, the rule book, to like read the mind flayer, and he's like, okay. So now he's taken that and he's like, well, now this book must have more answers, right? So then Dustin like continues on, and then he realizes like, oh, I've passed where this is helpful. Now it sounds ridiculous because now he's just looking at it like a kid, and Hopper no longer finds this information useful. So now he has to evaluate all the other information he's gotten from Dustin because this is his source. He's like, well, is the mind flayer is any of that useful at all? But it is. It's just up to a certain extent, right? You could use
Right.
it as like a prism, but how
Yes.
reliable is it? At that point, you're just like, well, it's just a guidebook, man. It's just to kind of help you understand a little bit, but
Yeah.
it's only gonna go so far.
Yeah, Hopper's like, so what? We just use a fireball? Like, what are you trying to
Right?
tell
He's
me?
like, no,
And he's
that's
like,
stupid.
yeah, you gotta summon some zombies.
Right.
Obviously, you need a
Yeah.
necromancer.
Oh, that's right. You got to summon the undead because they want brains, and the mind flayer. This has gone further than my.
And
So
he's like,
it's useful.
it's just a game. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Because he's like, wait a minute, this part isn't gonna help
But
us
it's
at
funny
all.
because some of it is helpful, so you have to
Right.
wade through what is.
Because it does operate kind of like a mind flare,
Right.
but then like the stuff about the zombies, not so much.
But you can't quite call up an undead army. So what use is it at that point?
Right. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
you're right. And like when they do it a lot in this season too, where they're merging the age gaps of the characters.
Right.
Like you have the probably the most noteworthy one being Steve and Dustin get kind of thrown together.
Well, they're following your previously established step ladder. I don't remember how you phrased it, but you've got the series. You've got the kids, you got the teenagers, then you got the adults. And so now Steve's kind of merging into the adults, but also Dustin's kind of pushing into preteen, I guess. But they connect those two as Dustin and Steve now.
Yeah.
Is that what you were alluding to?
Yeah, and I guess you could say that Max and
Billy?
well, no, I was thinking of
Lucas.
Lucas.
Yep.
Yeah, Max and Lucas, because there's like a romance building with them two, so that's kind of a maturation step.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah, you have other elements like that for sure. I was just thinking of it as like they were crossing that boundary instead of being like, okay, all the kids are over there, all the teens are over here, and all the adults are over here. Now they interplay with each other in this season, and it makes for some interesting dynamics. And that's like one of the funnier ones where they're like, okay, well, here's our process for solving this. So the kids' interpretation, let's use D&D to explain it, and
Right.
everybody's going,
What?
what?
Yeah, because they know it through and through, but adults don't have time to like know all the lore, the in-depth lore of Dungeons and Dragons.
Right. They just like, but they're connected through their experiences through the Upside Down
Right.
that
Which
they
they
all dealt
explain
with.
through all that. So it's
Right.
kind of just interconnected anyway. The other one is Elle and Hopper, which
Yeah.
is that one's also layered because of Hopper's past with his daughter,
Mm.
Elle's need for a father figure, and her past trauma from a father figure. Because she even, I think it's fun. I guess however you use the term fun with when some of the arguments that they have, because she's so angry at one point being locked up in this house, but in his mind he's like, and this is embodying so many things that we recognize as well as like overprotective parents,
Mhm.
feeling like you're locked away even though they're doing it for your own good, and they're having these back and forths like, we don't go outside. If you do any of this stuff, like the ramifications are so serious that we can't slip up anywhere, so you can't do it. But then she like interprets that as being held back and being locked away. She's just this princess in a tower, and he inevitably becomes the dragon because of that. So she has to fight back against him, and she uses a line where she's like, "You're just like Papa. You're just like the guy who raised me in a science lab and did all these experiments on me and was, we'll just call it abusive. I mean, what else do you call that?
Yeah.
The children." And obviously she doesn't mean it, but she's so angry that she says it. And then he's like, "I'm not a fan of you either. You're a horrible brat. Like, you don't appreciate anything. You're just a terrible person." And it's almost like he can't wait for her to get out of his life, but also like he's just fighting back and just being as immature as she is. So they're kind of like breaching that divide also between a
Mm.
kid, I guess parental relations, but the adult mature and the child, and where they are similar, and it's in that emotion where they
Yeah.
don't have any control of what they say or what they do, or they just be as hurtful as possible.
And it's almost like that trauma plays a role that sort of unifies, but also creates a ton of friction between characters.
Right.
Because Hopper, of course, lost his daughter, which is a devastating thing to go through.
And he's holding so tight to prevent that from happening again
Right,
with
exactly.
Elle.
That then he takes these actions that they're not really things that he would personally would have done otherwise,
Sure.
right? Without that experience, no. It's too extreme. So, yeah, it is interesting just how it is able to pull out the roots of these characters and get those interplays going. This is what I'm talking about. This is a great season.
I love it the deeper you delve. That's why I think you had an initial aversion, is that surface level, yeah, you're right. It's not different enough. It's not experimental enough or daring enough, except in one episode. And that's one everyone's
And
like,
that's the one.
screw that. But
Yeah.
when you delve in, it's got a lot of depth to it, and it is playing off the foundations laid by the first one really well, and it just took some extra time to appreciate it. That's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, like certain things were easier to appreciate like right from the get-go. Like Bob, for example,
Right.
is
Sean
fantastic.
Astin, by the way.
Yeah, I loved
Most
him from the first time I watched it. I was like, he's great. He's so funny. Like, I mean, he's funny in a way that it's not the thing he did that was funny.
Sure.
That wasn't funny at
Why he
all.
does it.
It's why he did it as a character and how believable it is.
Right.
Like, that person who wants there to be humor in the room, but they're not a very good comedian.
Right.
But they're gonna do their best to try to fill.
And
the
he's just
room
so
with laughter.
lovable for it because of what he's trying to do, not
Yes.
how he's doing it. Like that I think that the scene that embodies that the best, I should have put it in here, that would have been great, is when Jonathan is trying to connect to Will, and basically Will's having a hard time. Jonathan comes in and he's like, he sees him drawing the zombie boy, and he has it labeled zombie boy because he was called that at school. And he's like, "Oh, is that something someone called you?" And Will's like, "You need to stop treating me like I'm fragile, like everybody else. Like, I'm sick of this. I'm already having a hard enough time as it is. I'm a freak." And Jonathan's like, "Yeah, you are a freak. You're right. He's like, freaks are all the best types.
Mm-hmm.
And then he poses a question, which you'll have to see our episode on Jim Henson, by the way, for this. But he goes, who would you hang out with, Kenny Rogers or David Bowie? And if you've seen our episode on Jim Henson, you know our thoughts on Jim Bowie. He is a weirdo. He's a weird dude. But they obviously agree that Jim Bowie would be a more interesting person to hang out with. But as they're saying that, Bob walks by and he goes, "I love Kenny Rogers." Because he's this like traditional adult, like straight laced. He's just like, Kenny Rogers is great. Like David Bowie, he's okay, I guess. He's just he's the thing the kids like these days. But Kenny Rogers, he's it. Then he like looks at the stack of movies that Jonathan brought in. He goes, "Oh, Mr. Mom, that's fantastic." He pulls it out because he's just expressed that he doesn't want to watch a horror movie, but Mr. Mom that's where it's at.
Yep.
And it's hilarious because like then they have this nonverbal communication between each other of like, this guy's he's just too much of a straight-laced dude. He's not cool,
Right.
He's not fun, but he's so lovable.
Right.
Like there's not much you could dislike about the guy. And then he continues to prove that through the season. But that scene itself like perfectly encapsulates what Bob is and how everybody sees Bob, but also why everybody loves Bob. It's great.
Yeah.
But also Sean Astin. So I mean, Sean Astin can do anything with anything. But
I know, he's perfect.
Yeah.
My favorite scene of him is actually when he comes over and, because he thinks Will is sick and he brings like food or whatever, or he brings it, or
he brings over the puzzles, the brain puzzles.
Yeah, the brain puzzles. And then Joyce is like, just get out of here. Now it's not a good time and stuff. He's like, "You sure?" So he does this sweet gesture, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then she shoos him away, and then she's like, "Wait a minute, Bob, I need your help." And then she brings him in and has him look at the maps that Will has been drawing like a crazy person with his crayons, and they're just taped all over the walls. And Bob's just looking at him, and he's all, "Huh, okay." And then she's like, and he's like, "I'm trying," and he's trying to ask the question for the context. He's like, "I don't know the context. What are we talking about? What do you want me to do? And you're also acting really weird. I know I agree." And she's like, "You agreed, no questions. Like, you just have to look at it and try to solve the puzzle." And he's like, "I'm starting to get real worried about you guys." And then it clicks for him, and he goes, "Oh, that's the park or whatever it was.
Lover's Lake, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's Lover's Lake." And she's like, "Wait, what?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's what it looks like." "Oh, wait." And then he's walking around the house, and he's like, "It's a map of Hawkins. Huh, I solved it."
Yeah, because initially they don't know it's a map. That's what her question was. Because you're trying to use it to find Hopper, and she's like, "I need you to look at something," because she thinks he's a really smart guy. Maybe he's the solution.
Right.
And then he
and
sees
she's
something.
Right again.
Right, yeah. She's right there. Yeah, like I said, always right. But Bob initially thinks that it's kind of a like psychotic thing because he knows that Will is having a lot of issues. He knows that Joyce has a lot of worry for him, so she's probably on the edge of breaking. So he's like, "I don't think this isn't helpful for either one of you. Like, why are you entertaining this?" Like he's like, "I'm happy to play and I'm happy to do anything for you and I'm happy to do anything for your kids, but is this really the best thing we should be doing?" And then he's like, "Wait a minute. I know that." And he's like, "Oh, it's a map of Hawkins. I solved it. I got it, right?" He's like, "Right, Will?" And Will's like, "Oh, I didn't know that either, but sure. This is a map of Hawkins."
And like just how he just gets so invested in solving the puzzle.
Then it's just singular focus. He's like, "Figure this map out." Because then she's like, "Where is this?" And he's like, "Oh, well, we can figure that out. We can do it. Let's jump on board. Help me out."
A ruler and measure, and he's like, "Not exact." And
it's like, if you're twisting my arm, you're really twisting my arm. That's where this is. This is based on so little data. I can't say that this is exact. So I mean, I don't know what you want me to do, but I guess we'll go.
Yeah.
Because then she's like, she just leaves, and he's like, "Oh, we're going." Like, "Oh, that's what this is all about. We're going to the X." So all right.
His acclimation into the strangeness of the upside down that everybody else has to endure is one of my favorites. I just love that transition where he's like, just has to just go with the flow.
Right.
Just go with the flow.
Well, because, he's like, "I don't know what to do with any of this, but the girl I like, she's asking me to be a part of this, so I'm just going to go with her. I'll just do it because I trust her, and she's great, so I'll just, whatever she needs."
Yeah.
It's
and then they find...
so authentic.
Yeah, and then they find Hopper underground, and he's like, "Thanks, Bob. Hey, Jim."
Well, right, because they get there and he's like, "What are we doing?" Because they jump in these tunnels. He's like, "This is probably really unsafe. Like, why are we just running through these tunnels right now? Like,
Yeah.
maybe we should call someone or like, why are we doing this?" And then they find Jim and he's like, "Well, we got to save Jim." And he's like, "But he's under all these tendrils and stuff. Like, what are these tentacle things?" Like, so they cut him loose, and then he's like, "Well, this is really bizarre, really strange.
Yeah, exactly.
Welcome."
It's a strange thing I just went through.
Yeah. It was a perfect embodiment of pulling the real world into the world of Stranger Things.
But then they kill him.
But then they're like, "Yeah, but he's not fit for this world."
And then
Stranger Things spoilers, by the way.
and that's almost like why it's almost like salt on the wound because you watch
Mm,
the episode, the Chicago episode, and you're like, "Oh, I hated that."
right.
And then the next episode is like, "You like Bob?"
Yeah. Not anymore.
You're like, "Hey, I liked Bob. I wanted more Bob."
Nope. No more
Like,
Bob.
I'd
Bob's gone.
sacrifice Max and Billy if I could keep Bob.
Making trades. This isn't a card game. I got a Max and a Billy for a Bob. I want him in my deck.
I would do that. Bob the Brain. He's the best.
He's great. I thought they were doing a trend thing. This was my first indicator because they killed Barb
Uh-huh.
and then they killed Bob
Oh.
and then season 3 kills someone with a B name. We'll go over that. And then season
Yeah.
4 just wiped that off the map. I was like, dang it!
Nobody with the name starting with a B.
There was no B names that died there. Maybe there are, but the main character that died wasn't a B name. So, but they did kill someone. True Stranger Things fashion. So
That is kind of lame.
we will get there. We're gonna get there. We'll evaluate those things and their threads. I think further in. I think we'll leave that discussion.
Yeah, I did like though. The last thing I'll say about Bob though is, to be fair, I do like how it's kind of like it is. Barb was that token character that everybody loved because they were so real, and then
Mhm.
they died, and then they bring in Bob, and he goes through the same arc except it lasts the whole season much
Right.
longer. And I felt like that was a good way to go about it because he's around so much and he's acclimating, you start to let your guard down that it could be him.
Just
Whereas,
kidding.
yeah,
And it ripped apart.
because the
'Cause-
thing with Barb is you don't even know if anybody can die in this show until she does.
Right, yeah.
So there's no indication of what's going to happen with her.
But she's bringing us into that reality because you have to understand the stakes in order to be invested.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the way to do it, is to get rid of someone that you care about, for one, someone that the characters care about, so that but it also raises the stakes for everybody because now there's a police investigation. Now that's something that Nancy has to deal with forever. But also it was an interesting character. We all liked Barb for the short amount of time that we got to see her. Bob, you're right. Now they're playing off that expectation of like, well, we got rid of Barb, so we got to replace her with somebody. We'll bring in this new character, Bob. But Bob gets to last the whole season. You're right. You let your guard down. You're like, oh, it's okay. And then they're like, no, no one's safe. And so it like replaces those stakes. Even though you want Bob to stay,
Yeah.
they have to give it to somebody in order for you to realize like the seriousness of the world. Because you don't want to go through. It gets stale if you just keep all the characters everyone loves alive. It's like, well, now no one thinks that any of these people are they all have plot armor. They're not going to get hurt. They're not going to get any kind of consequence. So Bob is that catalyst to be like, no, anybody still can die. We want you to remember that. And it sucks to lose that character because you get attached to him, but we got to do something to get rid of somebody.
Yeah, it by dragging it along, it's just you earn that. It's like they earn the seriousness that they want to be able to have.
Right.
They want you to take the trauma and the hurt and the pain that these characters go through very seriously. And so when they kill a character, it is very intentional, and it does feel like it's earned, even though it's heartbreaking because it sucks because you always love these characters.
Right.
But that actually kind of reminds me too of one of my favorite moments in this whole season is when Elle saves the team from the Demodogs, and Mike discovers that Elle has been alive this whole time and knew it, and Hopper has been keeping her from everybody in order to protect her. and he has that conversation with Hopper, and he just gets flaming mad, and he's like screaming, and he's hitting Hopper, and then he starts crying, and like his crying is just like really like
Yeah.
it comes through really sincere, and it makes a lot of sense because you think about it. This is a kid. He's the one who runs Dungeons and Dragons. He's the campaign, designer, or what is that, dungeon master, and in the first season, he's all about, we got to save Will. We got to save Will. He's out there. He's okay. And everyone else is like, oh, I don't know. I don't know. It's getting kind of bad. And he's just like, no, he's out there. We could do this. And then he discovers that Will is dead, and he's devastated from that. But then it's like, oh, wait, Will can be recovered. Gets his friend back. So he has that really hurtful low because he wasn't doing any emotional prep work for the possibility that it's like, no, I'm not even going to entertain that Will could still be, that he could that he could have died. He's has to be alive. So it hits him really hard, and then he bounces back. And so when he loses L throughout this whole season, he's really hurt by that.
Sure.
And
Because he
he's
thinks
just
it's his failure. Yeah.
right. Mm.
And that's an interesting.
He's supposed to protect the party,
Right.
and also like she just meant so much to him because it was like he was just developing like a really unique connection with someone that was kind of, because usually again, the dungeon master, he manages everything, but that was one that kind of happened out of his control. So I think that was part of the novelty that inspired him to.
But he's the one that accepted her in the group too.
Yeah.
So by doing so, he allowed that possibility. So that's probably some
That's
form
fair.
of guilt. But also, she's, the mage of the party. But that's
Yeah.
what Will was. So they lost
Mhm.
their mage initially. They got a new mage in order to help find the old one, but then lost the new one when they found the old one.
Mhm.
So in his mind, he's like, man, I can't. I just seem to keep losing somebody just by like it's a trade almost.
Yeah.
So yeah, he goes through all that guilt, and like all of that's just reading in fantasy into reality, as as much of that as it is with the world of Stranger Things. But
Mhm.
yeah, so when he realizes that she actually is alive, it is dichotomous with realizing that Will's actually alive after thinking he was dead, because he saw Elle die, he saw Will's body. So like that's got to be extra traumatic
Mhm.
when it's like, oh, I was wrong on that one too. But I've had to experience two friends dying
Right.
fake. I mean, regardless of that, like that emotion is gonna still be pretty rough.
Yeah.
So he had hope that she was alive because her manner of death was unusual. But yeah, I mean, you're still gonna have that grief, that long lasting grief, that like really deep seated level of sorrow.
Yeah, because they, like, going with that, the characters who, went through the Upside Down and fought the Demogorgon and did all that in season 1, they've created a sort of bond as a result, and that then is something that disconnects them from the rest of the Hawkins community. I think it's really interesting how we see Nancy and Steve, they start off together, but then as the story goes on, they break up, and then Nancy gets together with
Jonathan.
Jonathan. And the reason that happens is that they were the two who had confronted the Demogorgon personally last time, whereas Steve was, off in
He jumped
his
in
own
at
little
the
world.
end.
Yeah, so he's aware of
He did
it,
his part, but
but
yeah,
he didn't really have the kind of discovery and the hauntingness that the other two had gone through together. And like, they like slit their hands to like attract it with blood or whatever. And so the two of them have a stronger bond because of that. That's just unbreakable. I don't dislike the idea of putting the two of them together. That seemed obvious in season 1 that that's a potential outcome. But one of the things that was great about season 1 is it felt more real for her to go back with Steve, just because that is
that's her
what
safe place. Yeah,
exactly, yeah, and it's just that's routine or whatever, and I don't want to be around the person who reminds me of all these traumatic things all the time. But there's obviously other ways to look at it.
sure.
But then in this season, they kind of rush it, and they're just like, "All right, Jonathan, Nancy, you two are together now, and screw Steve. We got other
Yeah,
plans for him." And we're
he's
like, "What? What happened there? That was
and,
fast."
and then they just plummet him in season 3. Still don't like that.
Yeah, they don't like him in season 3. They really hate Steve, and it's strange. But
Well,
did you want to talk about the relationship between? Because I
I,
know it bothers you too. The fact that is it just because it's rushed that it bothers you, or the other things?
no, I think it's because with that explanation, it helps a little bit for sure. Because you're right, bonded by trauma is something that's like tough to it's tough to have that with someone that you haven't experienced that stuff with. So like I get that. I liked Steve a lot in the first season, and they decided to keep her with him. So I was like, well, I like that decision. That's different because
Yeah.
I thought she would get with Jonathan in the end of season 1 because she does kind of break things off with Steve, and then like they have that whole battle together. Steve jumps in at the end, but Steve's also just a really genuinely nice guy. He's like trying to come out of the like douchebag phase, and he actually has a good arc in the end. And so I was like, oh, I like the fact that she's like, you know what, I'm gonna stay true to my character and go back with the man that I've decided to be with. Plus, he's worth being with. Like, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
Like I said, I like Steve.
And he fights the Demogorgon, and
Right.
he saved her, and
He
he
steps up.
acclimated.
He
Yeah,
always
he
stepped
does.
up to the plate. Even
Yeah.
when he dipped, he came right back.
Yeah.
And he does the same thing in season 2. And so it was really confusing to me because Nancy's the one that breaks things. Like, I understand why, and he has a low point in saying like we should just ignore reality and pretend everything's okay. Like, that's not a great way to solve that problem.
It's the best solution he knows what to do with
But
at the
he's
moment.
just looking out for her.
Right.
He's just like, hey, let's not wallow in despair. There's nothing we can do about this. So like let's try and push it aside and we'll figure it out as time goes. And like
Mhm.
he didn't word that right or whatever, but she's the one that goes up and is like, yeah, well, we're not really in love. I don't love you, and you're the one that keeps pushing me to like forget about this thing that's haunting me. So I'm gonna just push you away. And he takes that seriously because everything he says is sincere, and so he expects that she's being sincere back.
Oh, yeah.
So he takes that sincerely, and then during that time is when she runs off with Jonathan. I was like, man, that was kind of scummy of her, honestly, because it almost felt like she didn't own up to when he brought it up because he's like, you said you don't love me. He's like, so do you? And she couldn't answer him, and so he's like, well, there you go. I'm just gonna take you at your word, and he leaves. And then she's like, well, I guess it's over. And then the first opportunity that comes with Jonathan was like, man, this doesn't feel like something Nancy would do for the first for one. It doesn't really feel like something Jonathan would allow either. And then Steve just kind of takes it sitting down after all that. It was like none of this feels like anything these characters would have done given the basis from season 1. Like they all
Yeah.
handled it really maturely in season 1. He thought Jonathan was in on for his girl, but then realized what they were doing was like, oh, I got to jump in and help. And he
Yeah.
jumped in and helped.
Right.
And then he was like, he actually made up for the camera he broke. He bought him another camera and was like, here you go. This is my apology for the horrible way I acted because of my assumption of the situation.
Yeah, he tries to make amends.
Right. So he had good character. And then
Yeah.
they all had good character with how they dealt with it. Jonathan wasn't going after Nancy. Nancy wasn't going behind Steve's back.
Right.
And they all made up. And so it was weird that then they took advantage of that in season 2. I was like, this is a payoff for something that you said wasn't being set up.
Yeah.
So it just felt weird. And then it felt really scummy. I was like, guys don't feel like, because Steve still is blameless in all this.
Well, okay, I will say there's one part I do blame him a little bit for.
Sure.
When she's drunk and she tells him all that stuff, and then he just like leaves her at the party.
Yeah, that's yeah.
I felt like Steve is a smart enough guy to be like to start initially with like, all right, you don't mean that, and kind of brush her off. And you could continue the scene and have her be like, no, I do mean that.
Sure.
And then after he takes her home, which is I would expect him to do, then it would like eat away at him. And so when he sees her again, he would be kind of distant, standoffish, and she'd be like, what's the big deal?
Sure.
And then at some point it would resurface and he'd be like, you said some really hurtful things.
Yeah.
And then she could be like, oh, well, I was drunk. And that's a good opportunity because then she goes into defensive mode instead of being like, oh, I'm sorry. Because if she genuinely, loved him, she would be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I said that.
Yeah.
I need to repair this. I need this relationship to work. Instead, it would have been like, well, I'm sorry. Psh, like, I was drunk and you shouldn't have taken that seriously. And he was like, well, I did take that seriously because it seemed like you were speaking from what you actually felt deep down.
Right.
So now I'm really questioning where your allegiance is.
Yeah, and I think they do that to an extent in that episode. I mean, I like what you're saying, but they might not have the time or the space to put it all in. If they take out the Chicago episode, maybe. But I think
I love it. There's just more and more reasons.
More reason to just remove
like,
it. Just get it
pull
out.
that out.
But they do that. I mean, because she doesn't own up to it, so that effect still remains, despite not having a whole lot of fleshing out. He does bring it up, and does ask her again, and then
He
she
does.
doesn't apologize. She doesn't acknowledge that she says those things or like make it right. She just says, "Well, I was drunk. Why are you taking it seriously?" It's
She
like,
should have repaired it a little more,
sure,
I think is what I expected, because then she's like, "Oh, I guess I don't. Whoops."
right,
It's
yeah, that's it.
wait a minute.
And I
Hmm.
think Murray's explanation is the only thing that kind of helps repair it, because he's like, he acknowledges, or he brings forth and calls her out on the fact that she relies on safety. She goes back to the comfort of safety
Yeah.
rather than whatever, following your heart or your true feelings or whatever. But he was like, yeah, she's gonna go back to the safety of name, and they're like, Steve, and he's like, there you go. It's the burden of seeing everything or whatever it is that he says. But it's interesting because he kind of like psychologically explains why that happens, and I
Mhm.
I didn't dislike that. I was like, okay, I get that. But you're right,
It's just rushed.
it wasn't fleshed out enough to like make you accept it, or at least for us. I mean, other people
Mhm.
in it might not have as much of a problem with it, but I did. I was like, I don't know. You didn't seem like a low enough character to have done that. But okay.
Yeah, I mean, it rubbed me the wrong way, especially the first time. It still bothered me this time just because I felt like all the pieces were there, just not quite enough time had elapsed for it to feel like a natural, like all the step. It's like all the steps did happen, but that's the only thing that happened and
Right.
no in betweens. So
There
then
was
you're
no like
like,
come along with me. It was
y-
like I can't understand this the way you're presenting it.
right. The excuse that they only have so much time, I agree with that to some, or at least I accept that on some level because they are somewhat limited. But I think if it was me, I would have just been like, this is more of like a season 3 arc where she gets together with Jonathan. I think it's a little,
That's fair.
or like later on in season 2, like the end, maybe something shifts or whatever. Like, because they kind of have to rush it a little bit, and
Maybe
that
she
happens
just
every
break
now and then in
maybe
the
she just
show.
breaks it off with Steve at the end of season 2 and doesn't nothing happens with Jonathan, but there's that like allusion to it.
Yeah, it could be that way. I mean, and again, like the content is fine.
Yeah.
It was just how quickly we get there to the conclusion. It's like, wait a minute, show me your work, show me the math. How did you
Sure.
solve this kind of thing?
That's fair.
Yeah, but
Well,
yeah, that's a minor thing in the grand scheme of the show, I guess, right? Or in the appreciation of season 2. Trying to keep
yeah.
it positive.
Well, I'm also trying not to say too much because I've seen season 4. So,
All right, this is getting annoying. I'm gonna go watch season 4
it's
when I get home.
funny. It just recontextualizes a couple things, so
Hmm.
why don't you watch it?
Okay.
Do you have anything further you'd like to say? I think I have one further question that I'll close on, but is there anything
Okay.
else that you want to?
No, hit me up. That sounds perfect.
Okay, so season 1, and I think we kind of breached on this to an extent, but season 1 had it, whatever it is, right?
Okay.
It became a phenomenon. I mean,
Yeah.
resonated with everybody, and it
Hmm.
became like Netflix's flagship. And obviously, we like it a lot
Yeah.
for a lot of reasons. Our reviews. Um, do you think, because you had some expectations going into season 2, watching it a second time was really what solidified it for you? Is recreating that magic possible?
Is it possible, or does it specifically apply to season 2? Is that your question?
Let's apply it to season 2. Let's just go there.
Okay. Does season 2
Does it
capture the magic
yeah.
of season? I really wish I didn't have to constantly put the Chicago episode into the evaluation. I know we keep saying that, but it's a bad episode.
It
It's
is.
not
It's
fun. I don't like it.
yeah. It's too much of a deviation,
It's
unfortunately.
just like, pooh.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like, but I do feel like, I don't know. Yes and no. How do I give a great answer to this? Because it feels like on the principle of the thing, you can't because everything is so new to you when you watch season 1.
Yeah.
And obviously, if they're dealing with the same characters in the same setting and the same conflict of the upside down or whatever, those things will not be new to you.
Yeah.
So it seems impossible that you could, recreate the magic. I suppose you could recapture it though, and I feel like if we get rid of the Chicago episode and we clean up a little bit of the Nancy Steve arc a little bit, assuming those two things happened, then it just like slots right into season 1, and becomes like a perfect continuation. And then I just see it as like one thing.
Mm.
And I think that would have been a cool vision to go down, of just making it all like synergize perfectly together, because that's so rare. It just seems like every time there's a sequel, there's like everything's got to be new and different.
It's
You
got to
know,
have some kind of theme or something. Yeah.
yeah, a new theme and like a new visual style and new this and new that, and they're trying to like push the boundaries of what you can do. But I kind of like the idea of just season after season, it's just more of the same, but it's all individually so good, and it does connect seamlessly with the others, that it makes it for like a bigger picture. It's a bigger, or it's more depth and explanation to the theses of Stranger Things.
Oh, that's fair.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think I'd agree with all of that. I don't think I could add to it. Because, yeah, I'm upon rewatch, like, I liked it well enough the first time. But upon rewatch and actually, like, analyzing what it's got going for it and what it doesn't, I think it has, 96% or whatever is there. So I was like, okay.
So
That's
you're
a.
in a 5-star camp with me on
Oh,
it?
yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's anything I would. I'll have to rewatch season 3 again and see. But whatever downfalls, come with season 3 or whatever, I think season 4 makes up for it.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah.
again, that context that's gonna, but like, I think they took any weak points that they had, and they recognized them, and for that, I think they deserve merit.
Mhm.
Because, I mean, for what it's worth, like, they did try some different things with season 2. At least they tried new characters. They tried to
Mhm.
introduce more things, and while maintaining the vision of Stranger Things. Like, what makes Stranger Things Stranger Things? It's the nostalgia that we all experience in some way or another. Like, and it's neat that you can even pinpoint certain things that resonate more with you than with others. Like,
Mhm.
so they did a really good job of continuing that. And then I think season 3 was more. There was more room for them to, like, be a little bit more experimental, I guess,
Mhm.
or try different references and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, for what it is, I think they did a great job. So I'd probably, yeah, just take it in the 5-star. Well worth recommending.
Yeah, it's interesting how the first watch of it I didn't like as much. And I remember hearing some people being like, eh. Like my sister, just one of them, she just straight up didn't watch it because she was like, there's no way that it can be as good as season one. She's like, I have such a great experience with season one. I don't want to see anything else.
Don't
It's
want
just
to
gonna
tarnish
ruin it.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, she didn't want it tarnished, so she didn't watch it. And now I think about recommending it to her, and I feel like her response is gonna be like, I don't know if I want to do that. And then maybe she'll try it, and then if she tries it, she will be like what I did, and she won't like it, and then she'll have to wait years and then go
Watch it
back and
again.
rewatch it, and then she will.
What a
So it's
process.
like, yeah, but like, isn't that interesting how usually the sequels is like, oh, it's not as good and blah blah blah. But like in revisiting this, I'm kind of impressed that the show that's all about like, recycling stories and ideas is actually the one that stands the test of time as a sequel.
Hmm.
That's so interesting to me.
I'll have to do another episode on sequels or something and include this in there.
Yeah,
Try and break it down further.
go watch it again if you haven't. Great.
Definitely. Yeah. Just watch season 1 right into season 2. Just continuously. Let's just binge watch like the show's meant to be.
And just skip episode 7. Just kidding.
I think that's it. Thank you for watching. So you made it to the end of the video. If you liked it, please consider subscribing and leave us a comment. We'd love to hear what you thought.